are able to read because humans invented written language out of the kinds of things that we are able to see. Not only that we're able to see, but that we're good at seeing really quickly. All right? That's what these are, these little elements of written language. So similarly, the idea is that humans invented music out of the things that we're good at hearing. And the things that we're good at hearing are each other. Okay? The sounds of each other. So it's that simple. It's not that simple, but it's a nice kind of compact notion that is actually kind of productive as a theory, I think. And I would push it even further because, so what I did in my dissertation work was to look at the role of the body in the perception and cognition of music. So I would actually push Changizi's argument a little bit further, which is to say that music is more than just a sonic imitation of human action, but really that it is human action. I mean, we're now used to listening to music on our iPods and electronic music and stuff that is so removed from human action that we forget that once upon a time, not so long ago, music wasn't just something that we collect and stockpile by the terabyte, but it was actually something we did, you know. We actually participated in. It was something that we did with our bodies, and that's what music is made of, all right? It really is the sound of, not just the sound that evokes bodily motion, but it is that, first and foremost. Music was always made by bodily engagement with whatever available technology we had. The sound of music was always the sound of bodies in motion. We had objects adapted from the natural world, such as drums made out of gourds and logs and animal skins and bones and things. We also have had pure bodily acts, such as stomping and clapping and, of course, singing. All right? These are all things that require us to act in order to make sound. So then this gets back to this why question. So, okay, that's what it is, but why? Why that? And I'm not going to answer that. But here are some ideas. Well, one idea is this thing, well, the fact that we can synchronize our actions, okay? Because that's one thing that music is made out of. It's the fact that we can do things in time together. We can collectively keep a beat, and we can play rhythms together and so forth. And that creates this communicative advantage. So imagine, suppose I had a rhythm that meant run for your life. And I knew how to clap this rhythm. And whenever I clap that rhythm, it means please run for your life because something bad is about to happen. Like enemies are coming, or lions, or a volcano, or I don't know, something. And all I know how to do is clap it. So that means I can only clap so loud. I mean, so it means it'll only ever reach people a certain distance away from me because of the inverse square law. Okay. So now if I find somebody who can clap this rhythm exactly like me, and we do it together, then suddenly it's twice as loud, which means it goes twice as far and it reaches 4 times as many people. So then, suddenly more people will survive because they will know it's time to run for their lives. So then if I teach somebody else, suddenly we reach 9 times as many people, so on. You see, so this is it's just a simple thought experiment, but just imagine the communicative power of being able to do things together. And when I mean together, I mean musically together. Like in unison, all right? That's a very powerful thing that we're able to do that not many other species can do. I mean, we think of cicadas and bullfrogs. I don't know, a few others. But this is like a little bit more meaningful, perhaps, because it could be, we could have different rhythms. One could mean dinner time, and the other could mean run for your lives, and presumably they'd be different enough that they wouldn't get confused for one another. I just want to show you another example of this thing that's called synchronous chorusing. This is from the Occupy Wall Street movement. Oh, do we have sound? What she said? What she said? What's that? What's that? The proposal. The proposal. Be written in paper. So we can see it. So we can see it. When we discuss. Whether or not. To approve it. How do we feel about that? How do we feel about that? Okay, you get the idea. So that's only possible because we can do things together to that degree of synchrony, which is not a simple thing, all right? That's a skill that we have that is part of what makes us human. And it's because of that skill, I would argue, that we're able to do anything together, build things together, dance together, start civilizations together, start companies together. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but this is why I said this was a bit preposterous as a you know, the kinds of themes I'd like to explore. These are these big questions about why music exists, what it does, how it works. And these kinds of questions inspire me as an artist to do, you know, to make the choices I make. Now, when we think about what all these, I wanted to just drop in a couple of concepts about embodied cognition, because this is sort of the backbone of the research that I've done. So the old-fashioned idea about what cognition is or what thought is that it's this, the expert systems model, or the sort of old AI model where, you know, the mind is the software and the brain is the hardware, and these kinds of notions, basically dualism, you know, the idea that so the mind is some program that's running, and that it could run on any machine. You could kind of duplicate the mental processes in some kind of computer program and beat some grandmaster at chess, and therefore you're somehow simulating human intelligence. So it's basically this disembodied view of intelligence as this, you know, something that happens in some realm that is not actually the brain, but is in some kind of realm of abstraction. And I'm not arguing against abstraction, but I'm arguing for a regrounding of the mind in the brain, in the body. So this is this understanding of cognition as embodied action, an activity that is structured by the body and its situatedness in its environment. So in this newer understanding of cognition, we understand that it depends on the experiences of a body with sensory motor capacities, meaning we have sensations and we are able to act on those sensations. And then that we're also embedded in a larger biological and psychological and cultural context. And these are evolutionary qualities that we have. This ability to perceive and the ability to act evolved in tandem, and the mind is what links those two things. The brain, I should say, is what links those two things. What does that have to do with music? Well, this thing that we call motion of the body corresponds, not only corresponds to, but is identical with rhythm. What happens in the brain when you perceive rhythm is that your brain thinks not to anthropomorphize the brain, but your brain, the parts of your brain light up that are involved in what's called motor sequence planning, which is the movement of your limbs and things like that. So there's this direct, not only correspondence, but I would say an identity between rhythm and motion. All this stuff is maybe extraneous, and I think we should perhaps move on to questions, but I wanted to just throw up a couple of quick slides. Here's one, which is like, these are the rhythms of the body. The kinds of things that our bodies do that correspond to musical behavior. So the slowest kinds of rhythms in the body, not in the mind, but in the body, are breathing, basically. These things that correspond to breathing. Sorry, that was one of those swells. Sorry about that. Breathing, the slow arm gesture, the sway of the body. Sometimes you'll go to a concert and you'll see somebody just rocking like this. And musically, there's something called a phrase, which is sort of in that realm. It's sort of constrained by lung capacity, by what you can sing in one breath. And it's about in this range of time scale, or frequency scales, or time scales. So it's sort of between 1 and 10 seconds. These are fuzzy categories. So in the next level down, you have something around the heartbeat, and this musically is called the tactus. The heartbeat is around the same tempo as the infant sucking reflex, also a simple walking pace, the hip-hop head bob, and the sort of typical range of tempi for that is 1 to 3 hertz, or 60 to 180 BPM. Then we have speech, and the syllables of speech, which are themselves a rhythmic regime that's faster than the heartbeat, and that's what a friend of mine referred to as the Tatum, short for temporal atom, and also an homage to Art Tatum. And those are sort of in the about 1/3 to 1/10 of a second range. And faster than that, you have the phonemes, so you have like the difference between the sound, the word kick and the word click. If you can hear the difference between those two words, it's because you can perceive events on this time scale of 30 milliseconds, basically. The last slide here is, these are classic photographs. The question is, who's imitating who here, you might ask, but this is a sort of recent body of research on what are called mirror neurons, which may or may not exist, but there's a lot of evidence in their favor. And people have sort of run with this idea that it's basically monkey see, monkey do. It's nothing deeper than that, actually. But literally, I mean, there's another more recent, very famous picture of a scientist holding a baby monkey. He sticks out his tongue, and the baby monkey sticks its tongue back out at him. So somehow there's this kind of, even across species among primates, there's this level of empathy, literally empathy, in the sense that seeing an action in another body can stimulate those same channels of action in your own body to the point that you will act in an imitative manner, or mirroring the person or other entity that you perceive. Anyway, now the final thing I'll say about this is that this also works in the auditory domain. I can't show you a picture of it working in the auditory domain, but the music is that picture. Just think about that, okay?